Okay, so in the world of science, or in the world of physics, I won't say science, I like Eric Weinstein, and I make a lot of time for what he has to say. Now, he has some interesting things outside of physics, as well as his theory of everything. And I'm glad that Brian Keating and Kurt Jaimungal actually made time to give him a great interview with Kurt praising Eric's hard work. But I do think that Sean Carroll, who is a physics explainer, and he's really good, I really like Sean Carroll, I think it was a little unfair to him. What Eric has also done is managed to expose the hypocrisy of the network of physicists who are refereeing what goes on in the world of physics. And Eric's theories, you know, they're no better or worse than everything that came before him or what's going to come after him. But the travesty for me is that so many people have jumped on the mainstream narrative and are calling him out as a fraud, which is untrue and unfair. Even Sabine Hossenfeld, one of my favourite female theoretical physicists, she defended him. I listened to a show yesterday, actually, and she said she's been friends with him years, but it's not about just that. It's that he has a theory. It's not perfect, but people are being too hard on him, and then everyone else has jumped on the bandwagon. It's really cool to put Eric Weinstein down. And if you don't know the full story, you look on YouTube and you would think he is a fraud because of all these people who've jumped on, and I think it's pretty disgusting. So, physics is in a mess right now. Particle physics has hit a brick wall, string theory is going nowhere, and physics appears to be lost. What does the future hold? Now, there's something interesting going on, and figures like Eric Weinstein have ended up right in the middle of it. He isn't a conventional academic physicist, but he's managed to build a following by speaking about both technical ideas, like his proposed geometric unity theory, and the wider culture surrounding science. And that combination is part of why people pay attention to him, and it's also why he divides opinion. Weinstein's appeared in long-form discussions with people such as Brian Curtin, who I mentioned earlier, and Kurt Jaimungal. And, in those conversations anyway, he's been given space to explain his thinking in detail and is often praised for his effort that he has put into developing his ideas. And he's done it all independently, you know, without taxpayers' money, as Sabine Hossenfeld also mentioned. And that kind of platform matters because it allows audiences to hear arguments directly rather than through second-hand summaries or criticism. And at the same time, critics, most notably Sean Carroll, have raised concerns about both the content and the presentation of Weinstein's work. And Carroll, as an established figure in theoretical physics, has argued that Weinstein's ideas have not been developed or shared in ways that meet the usual scientific standards. And there lays the issue: standards. Standards work, of course, but when you have these institutions saying this is how we do it, then things get bad. He's complaining that there's no peer reviews, but then just recently they've torn apart peer reviews and said that they're crooked and corrupt as hell. And they have to pass, of course, a mathematical formulation, which they haven't passed at many levels. So, you know, he's not wrong in his criticism. But from that perspective, the criticism isn't necessarily personal. It's about maintaining a process that allows theories to be tested, challenged, and refined. However, I feel that it was still a part of the clique that is trying not to let Eric be heard, and many simply refuse to talk with him. And this tension highlights a broader issue. Physics, like any academic field, physics, like any other academic field, depends on systems of review and consensus building. And those systems can act as quality control, but they can also feel closed off, especially to outsiders or unconventional thinkers. Weinstein's been effective at pointing out that this structure can sometimes appear insular, which it does, because people are trying to tell us, oh, this is how the world is. We're this small group of scientists who think about the world like this, and these are our current theories. And if anyone else comes in with anything outside of that, we're not going to give them the time of day. And I can understand it up to a point, because if you watch earlier, I talked about me debating with people and the skill of rhetoric. I have a level of science that I understand, and a level of physics and mathematics and computer science that I understand. And when I get into debates with people who know nothing about it, but they've read a few posts online or watch a few YouTube videos, it's like arguing with a 7-year-old, and you don't want to listen to them at some point. You shouldn't have to listen to everybody who throws their ideas at you, because they're unqualified, they're uneducated. So, and I can see their point there. But at the same time, I'm not going to form a clique with other like-minded people and say, let's not listen to anybody. Who do you listen to? That's the difficult part. Now, historically, some important ideas have struggled to gain acceptance. And at first, although it's true, most ideas that challenge the mainstream, they don't ultimately hold up under scrutiny. And I admit that the claim that Weinstein's theories are no better or worse than others need to be handled carefully. And in science, theories aren't judged by how interesting they sound, but how well they explain existing evidence and make testable predictions. And at present, widely accepted frameworks like the Standard Model of particle physics and general relativity, they have strong experimental support, even though they're incomplete. And Weinstein's geometric unity has not yet reached that level of development or validation, which is why it remains outside of mainstream. All the same, it's interesting to listen to. It's also worth addressing the idea that he's been widely labelled as a fraud once again. That characterisation doesn't reflect the more measured criticism coming from most physicists. And while individuals online may use strong language, the general academic response has been more restrained, as it has to be. Scepticism rather than outright dismissal. And disagreement in science is normal, and it doesn't automatically imply bad faith. All the same, it sometimes feels like these gatekeepers are acting like pre-fight boxing match adversaries, having a dig at each other. Now, where the frustration does resonate is in the state of fundamental physics itself. There are genuine open problems. For example, attempts to unify quantum mechanics and gravity remain unresolved. And approaches like string theory, while they're mathematically rich, they've yet to produce any direct experimental confirmation. There's nothing to be shown for string physics. However, it would be an overstatement to say that physics is lost. Progress is still being made in areas such as cosmology, quantum information, and experimental particle physics. Even if breakthroughs in foundational theory have been slower than hoped. But there's nothing to show. So what does the future hold? Okay, it's likely to be a mix of continuity and change, being dynamic. Established theories will continue to be tested and refined, while new ideas, whether from within or outside the academic system, will compete for attention. And the key point is that over time, evidence decides, not reputation, not popularity, and not how well an idea fits a narrative. Figures like Weinstein play a role in that ecosystem, even if it's a controversial one. They can challenge assumptions, raise questions about how science is organised, and they can push discussions into the public space. But for any theory to move from the margins to the centre, it still has to meet the same standard. It needs to work mathematically and empirically. And until then, the debate around him says as much about the culture of modern science as it does about the science itself. So overall, what I think... my point of any of this, is to say that we're all fighting each other as we become split into these binary nodes, left and right, red and blue, and so on, black and white, much like the computers we created. But we have to start working back towards the centre and seeing how we can work with both ideas. This is our greatest challenge in life, unity. I am the OBG. Look at me again because you know it's kind of crazy.